Okay, so what could wreck your day even worse than waking up to finding out your heater for your pepper plants, or where your pepper plants were, malfunctioned and your pepper plants froze overnight? Or would it ruin your day more if your sewer backed up and your husband was gone for work? Or how about both? Or the fact that your husband is away from work, your sewer backed up, your pepper plants froze, and your husband was the last one to turn the heater on. Well, either way, we have some shit to deal with today. Okay, so what happened? Yesterday, we noticed, Chaz, he started to use the plunger a little bit downstairs. And that was fine and dandy because he is prone to using a little bit more of that, kids, they throw more things in there than they need to. But yesterday, we went and checked last night, and the pump for our sewer, which we have a septic tank, it was burnt out. It happens. Sometimes these pumps last 10 years, sometimes these pumps last 2 or 3 years. We noticed the pump was no good. So what we did is we got a sump pump and we pumped out all of the water so that we could get down in the tank and work on it. All fine and dandy. Bought a new pump, put the new pump in, and guess what? The new pump was still not emptying the tank because we have bigger problems than that. Now, the bigger problems than that are at the other end, at the pump out of our sewer, our sewer system. Now, where we are in Alberta, we are on an acreage. This used to be a farm. It was subdivided. And here, what they do is they have septic tanks and they pump them out. And there's regulations and all these different things for distance and such. And so, all fine and dandy, we replaced our septic tank a couple years ago, and we did the, you hear Roo? He just learned how to crow. Anyway, we did a bunch of work on both ends. We put in a new end on the pump out, and we did a new septic tank a few years ago. So everything should have been just fine. I'll show you what we got going on here. So this is our pump out. This is where the problem begins, right here, where our horses have been going through this gate. Well, it's not really a gate, it's just an opening we made for easy access for them to come and get fed on this side of the yard. So the problem we're having is the horses were using that access and walking over where the actual sewer line comes into where the pump out is. And I'll show you here where that is from the other side of where I just showed you. This is one of the culprits. Hey, sweet girl. Oh, yeah. Was it you? Did you wreck the sewer? Of course not. It was probably you, because look at how dirty you are. Oh, shedding season. Yeah. Does that feel nice? Feel like that right there? Okay. Okay. So, I'm covered in hair. So here it is. No, this is the wrong one. The pump out. This pump out here is for the shop. I am wrong. We have two pump outs. This one here specifically is for the shop, which is fine. The issue we are having is they're coming through this gate and they're walking over here, which is essentially they're walking directly on top of the hose that is buried in the ground to pump the water out, which is in this little mounded thing here. See, this is actually water that's being pumped out of those tanks. It's not like raw sewage or anything. It's just water. That's part of the job of the septic system, is to break it down So this here is actually the septic pump out for the house. And the other one I showed you was for our shop. So these horses of ours have been coming from where we feed over by the corrals, and they cross right here in this gate area, which never existed here before. We just kind of cut a hole in the fence to make it easier to deal with feeding for the winter, which wasn't a big deal in the winter. And as you see, they cross there and they come this way around this brush pile, or they go another way. But the main thing is they cross right here. And that is where the line goes from the house, which is on the other side of those sheds, all the way to here. So basically, just from traffic of them walking back and forth over top of the pump out hose, the horses actually froze our sewer line, which now means we have to use what's called a thaw can, and that goes into the end of the pump out hose, and you push that down, and then you're able to put like water or whatever down in there to thaw it out, that kind of thing. So that's what happened. Now the thing about horses or animals like cattle or anything really is that they can drive frost down into the ground, especially in the spring, much more than even like a vehicle or a cat, like a bulldozer cat. So like in the oil field and in logging industry, they would usually use equipment or things to like go back and forth over top of ground to freeze in to get the frost, drive the frost down into the ground. This time of the year, the frost is really getting driven down into the ground during the thaw. And horses, we had no problem with it all winter until spring, because they're making big ruts and they're pushing and compacting that frost right down into that water line or that sewer line. So if you live on an acreage or farm, or you're new to this is something that you may want to prevent from happening. You don't want your animals to be crossing lines, to be crossing sewer lines or water lines for that matter. Now, this isn't my first time having this happen. This happened a few times when I was a kid, growing up on my family farm. We had that occur several times, and it was not easy to fix. It's a real pain in the butt to fix, and so it can be expensive. The reason the pump blew up is because it just burnt itself out. So every time you replace a pump, that's like $800 to $1,000. So it can really add up. You want to make sure that you're not making mistakes like we did, and making sure that even if you do have them crossing your sewer lines or your water lines, if you have livestock of any type, or you're driving over it with quads or whatever in the spring, you want to make sure that during the thaw, you make sure they're not walking over it or no traffic is going over those lines, because it can be very expensive, and it's a very simple fix. We would have just had to put a wire up so that these guys wouldn't have had to walk through that mud hole, and would have forced them to go in a different way where it was less muddy. They're just being lazy, and they got used to going that way in the winter because it was frozen. They never sunk, and it was a shortcut for them. So, theoretically, they would rather trudge through the mud than walk the long way around, because they want to get to the food first. And that's okay. But they're just being animals. And so you can't be mad at them for freezing up the lines, because you know what? It was user error. We know better, and we should have known better. Like I said, it's happened before. I've had experience with this before. I didn't even think about it, but you know what? Every spring, there should be a kind of a checklist of things to do, and that should be one of them. Check the lines, check the water lines and the sewer lines, and make sure nothing is crossing them as the frost is coming out, because as that water table is, that the water is melting, we know that frost is going deep, and so that's where you're going to run into trouble. So I hope that you learned something from our mistakes. We'll go take a look and see what else we kind of got going on over there. And oh, look how hairy she is. Just hair everywhere. What do you want? Huh? I couldn't shower this morning because of your help. Yeah. I smell like a horse. Yep. I smell like a horse, just like you, because I couldn't shower. Yeah. I know. I couldn't do dishes either this morning. Or last night. Yeah. Do you want to kill that bird too? Should we have him for dinner? Oh, he's annoying, isn't he? Good boy. He's such a good boy. Hi. You gonna like me today? Oh, I know what you're gonna like. Boop. Oh, 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 oh. Iceman. He does not like nose boops. Apparently. Bailey, make the bird shut up. Yeah. So our sewer line, it comes from right there and it goes under all of our stuff and around over to that gate where those horses were, just on the other side of the granaries or the garden sheds. So right now we have the lid off because it's really, really heavy and I don't think I can lift it by myself. Tyson's gone. He's away for a couple days with work, or he'll be back tomorrow morning or sometime tomorrow. And so overnight, I wanted to be able to access to get in there in case I needed to work with this pump. So what we have basically, and I don't really want to move anything off. But what we have basically, we just have a pump down in there right now. It's just basically what we got going on is just a pump down there. It's hard to see. I don't think I'll be able to show you. So we have it just running. So if we start to fill up with water, in the septic tank, because it is spring runoff still, like there's still water seeping in from our weeping tiles and all those different things. So because of that, I just have this pump. So in case it fills up before we can get the end of it thawed out, that's what we're doing. So it's working really well for me right now because it's really pretty low tech and I don't have to get in there and do anything. Tyson had it ready for when I left, but for when he left, but it's basically it. Something to consider if you live on an acreage or farm and you're new to this kind of lifestyle, you really do want to consider getting a little sump pump that in case, if you have a septic field, like where you have a septic tank that pumps out, you want to always make sure that you have a access to a sump pump that you can pump it out in case that your sewer pump is not working and pumping it out. And that's the first thing you would want to grab because you can't see anything when it's full of water. Aside from letting it come up into your basement, which is not ideal. I mean, clearly you don't want that to happen. You want to prevent that from happening. So that's something I would always recommend if you're starting. We were very fortunate to have Tyson's dad, who was able to, he has one and we're able to use it. And, we're so grateful for that because it's one less expense that one has to kind of have, on the shelf in the shop just in case. So if you do have people, maybe you have people that are your friends with or neighbors that may be able to help you out, and just always have that in the back of your mind. In case something goes on with the sewer, do I have access to the tools I need to get in there so I'm not going to flood my basement? And that's like the number one thing that we learned moving here. And I learned as a kid growing up on a farm. Always make sure that you have access to tools that will prevent you from, getting any type of water into your house. The best way to remedy a lot of these issues, for example, the best way to remedy from preventing it from freezing is to make sure you're not, putting yourself in the opportunity for that to happen. Don't run a tractor over the end of it. Don't run a pickup. Don't run quads. If you go back and forth every day with quads, it's probably not going to do anything. But if you're going back and forth and tearing it up over and over and over, and making it, back and forth during this time of the year, it's very possible that it could. And like I said, animals will drive that frost further down much faster than a pickup or a car or, cat or, you know, whatever, skid steer. It's not, it's really just those are the kind of things you want to have in the back of your mind in the spring. Now, the early signs. So how do you know that you're starting to have some issues? As soon as you smell sewer. If you smell an odor coming from your basement or your you know, anywhere in your house, the toilets start bubbling, your sink starts bubbling, when you pull the plug and it's like gurgle gurgle, you should automatically start checking in, because you know, you could go days without knowing that something's wrong, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have water coming up in your basement or your toilet's overflowing. So those are just really important things, especially out in the acreage where the snow doesn't get hauled away. The snow is here, it stays, and it's gonna stay, and it's spring, and it's gonna rain, and it's gonna snow, and it's gonna melt, and it's gonna rain, and all that snow has to go, you know, from around the house. All that snow, all that moisture, it goes into your septic tank. So, you know, a lot of it does, not all of it, a lot of it does because of your weeping tile. So there's a lot of things that are contributing factors of things to think about when you're out on the acreage or on a farm and you're new to this lifestyle. And so those are some of my tidbits of wisdom. Now, I've been on the farm for a very long time. I have done a lot of things where I've been able to manage a lot of things on my own. Sometimes it takes a village to help a person when you're out in these situations, but I'm able to kind of rough it if I have to, and I have resources to, you know, resources to be able to access in case I need some, you know, special tools or something to deal with this kind of stuff. But typically, you know, in most cases, I think that a lot of women, especially out on a farm or an acreage or on the homestead, a lot of women who are new to this lifestyle, they might not know what to do. So, you know, the first thing I would really recommend is call somebody and, you know, see if they can come and check it out for you. If your pump isn't working, or if you know your pump isn't working, the thing is about this, it's a dirty job, and not every homeowner is going to want to go and fix that pump. So let me tell you how what happens when you have an issue with your sewer. The first thing you got to do with this septic tank is you have to pump out the water so then you can get down in the hole and work with those pumps. So not every homeowner or homesteader or person is going to want to crawl into that hole, into that septic tank and deal with that. But you got to get in there and access those pumps and those connectors and all those different things. So, you know, hire a professional. You don't want to be in there screwing around with that kind of stuff. The second thing is, you know, if it's still not going to work, you are going to have to check your fields. And how that works is usually you put like a snake tape down the end of your pump out. And if it stops, like if you're shoving your snake tape down into the hole, and it stops, if it stops as you're pushing through that snake tape, that means it's blocked. There's ice in it, right? There's ice most likely if it could be plugged, but usually, you know, sometimes it happened. Actually, when we first moved here, we had a mouse crawl down the end of the tube, and that's what plugged the end of the sewer. So we had to like cut it off, and there was like a dead mouse in there. But that's about it. You know, and if it stops, then you have to get someone to bring in a tool that they shove down into that hose, and then it thaws it out. So, you know, there's so many other ways you can do it, but that's what we do. I'm sure lots of people have different suggestions, but I really hope that this kind of helps you know what to do in a situation. Don't panic. Don't use your toilets. Don't drain the water. Don't run the dishwasher. Don't run the laundry. Just shut it all off, because as soon as this kind of stuff happens, you want to make sure that you're not going to bring water into your house and end up with an insurance claim, because that's what'll happen if you don't take care of it immediately. You don't want to do that. I'm hoping that that'll be inspiring to you, and point you into a direction of acreage troubleshooting sewer and horses. So that's the old pump. Ugh. Okay, so the other thing that happened today was my pepper plants. So on the way there, I should show you, this is really awesome. We finally got rid of our snow. So happy. I did plant some stuff. I put that down so that the animals wouldn't dig, and guess what? They found a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. They find a way to do it all the time. Ongoing drama, animal drama. But I'm really excited that I finally have a garden. This is where my cut flower garden is going, and all of this back here, we're gonna level that all out, and that's gonna be my market garden and personal garden back here. So I'm really excited to get that all hammered off. All right, now let's see how bad these peppers are. It was like super cold yesterday, and I was busy in the house, and so Tyson was coming out to deal with some stuff or do something. Can't remember what. But, oh, it's nice and warm in here anyway. Really warm. It was salad. I brought salad out for the chickens. So what happened is I had the window open a crack, and it was windy, and I had the heater off. Now let's see how bad it looks. Actually, they look good. So this is one of the ones that was flat, like right flat. It was awful. It had froze hardcore. So what happened is Tyson come out and he turned the heater on, right? But he turned it on to low, but it wasn't quite on low. Like, he accidentally turned it to there and it wasn't kicking on. So it froze in here. And peppers, as you can see, they're stressed. They do not like they're really, really frost tender. So the first thing I did, as soon as I seen that the peppers had been, frozen, I took every pepper and I threw them into a bucket of water because it wasn't really thawing yet. The sun was just starting to come in and shine in here. And so I threw them in a bucket of water. And so what that did is it prevented the cell walls of the peppers, like the pepper in the peppers itself, like the leaves, it prevented the cell walls from exploding, which is what frost does to plants. So that quick action, they were frozen. The soil was frozen in some of the pots. So by doing that, dunking them into the water, they've actually perked up and they're not flat. They're not dead. So Tyson gets off the hook today. We'll see how this sewer thing goes, and we'll see how this goes the next couple of days. And we'll see if I'm still mad at him when he comes home. I don't think I will be, because I'm pretty sure that was kind of my fault I should have been telling him that this heater needed a special whatever. But anyway, I'm really happy that my plants are still alive. They don't look very good. They're stressed out. So I'm going to give them till tonight, see how they look. I might start potting them up, but I'm just going to keep the temperature nice. I'm going to give them a nice drink of water, a nice warm water. And I'm just going to tomorrow start potting some of these up into the bigger pots, and hopefully they'll begin to be a little bit more happy. So that's what I'm doing. Thanks for being here with me. I feel like some days it's just great to have you here, seeing what we're doing on our property. It's really challenging being in northern Alberta, doing all the things we are doing because we have such a short growing season, especially when it comes to the gardening. And I'm really loving that we've had so many comments and people supporting us, sending us personal messages and such, supporting us and thinking what we're doing is great. Our purpose of this is to help inspire people to live a lifestyle where they don't have to be codependent, and they're able to learn how to do by doing things, essentially. And so that's kind of where we're just kind of becoming available to say, hey, this is what we're doing. It might not be right, but we hope it inspires you, and we hope you learn something, even if it's from a mistake. So thanks again for being here. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I'll catch you next time. This little kitten, it was living in the shop for like almost a year, and Tyson had no idea I was in there. It is so wild. It's so good at hiding. Like, if I try to walk up to it, it'll freak out. This is the closest I've ever been to this kitten. Kitty, come here. Come here, little one. Oh, it's probably hungry, and Mama's here. See? He doesn't know everything. Hey, Lulu. Tyson doesn't know everything. He didn't know that cat lived in the shop. Because this is where you put your dirty laundry. On your front lawn. I'm actually quite thankful for that because he was just in a sewer tank. So I think the best place for those is in the dumpster.